Hello friends! Welcome back to my channel. My name is Des, and today I'm going to show you all of the inks that I have in my fountain pens. So if you watched my most recent video, which was a pen case tour, you will have seen all of the fountain pens that I keep in my pencil case on a daily basis, but I thought it would be fun today to show you what I have currently inked in my fountain pens. This is my A6 Hobonichi, and I'm going to use it to show you what pens I have inked in here. So when I write in here, I usually keep a pencil board behind the paper that I'm writing on, and then I use a paper like this to put under my hand when I write so that the oils and like lotion and things don't get onto the page. And then I will leave the paper in here to blot the fountain pen ink so it doesn't smear. So first, I'm going to start with this black Lamy Safari. This was one of my first fountain pens. This has a fine nib on it, and it's currently inked with Diamine Shimmering Night Sky. This is just black, but with shimmer in it. I actually have a full bottle of this. I bought this entire bottle when I first got into fountain pens, and then I immediately regretted it because shimmer inks can be kind of a pain in the butt. But I recently just tried it in my black Lamy Safari, and it does amazing in this pen. So this has a fine nib on it, but despite having a fine nib on it, it actually writes so well with that shimmer. I haven't had any problems with this ink clogging this pen, and I went to write with it yesterday actually, and it wasn't writing, and I was so worried that it got clogged, and then I checked and it was just out of ink. And so I actually refilled this to film this video too, because honestly, I really love this combo. This black pen with this shimmering black ink is such a fun combination, and yeah, I'm just so impressed with this Lamy fine nib for handling shimmer like that. I think the Diamine shimmer is very fine, so I think it's a combination of the very fine shimmer, but also Lamy nibs, they tend to be broader than other brands, and I'm just impressed with this pen for handling the shimmer ink that well. Next, I'm going to show you what I have inked in my cream Lamy Safari. I have this pen inked with Herbin Vert Olive, and I just think this color is so awesome. It's very much a spring color, and it's fall now, but I can't get over it. I love this color so much. I have this tiny little bottle of it. Yeah, this is such a fun color, and I love this combination. So I don't think I mentioned it yet, but this is the Lamy Safari in cream, and this is an extra fine nib that I have on here. I like this combination, but I think the extra fine nib with this ink writes a little bit dry, and it can feel a little bit scratchy on some papers. It feels fine on the Hobonichi paper, but in my Midori journal, it does feel a little bit dry. So I don't know if I'm gonna do this combination again, but I do really like this ink. And I have used it in other pens as well, including this pen. I have used that ink in before and loved that combination. So this is the Lamy Safari in Spring Green, and I have a medium nib on this one. And I currently have it inked with Monteverde Malachite. I also have a bottle of this. And I love this green. It is so dark. It is like the perfect forest green. And you might be able to tell, but in the writing, it almost looks black. And then you look at it and you're like, wow, that's actually a really gorgeous green. The swatch definitely shows the green more, but the writing shows that dark shading a little bit better. This combination is a little bit wet. I think this ink tends to write pretty wet, and then I have a medium nib on this Lamy, so it gets a little bit messy here, but I'll try my best. Trying not to run out of room here. Ooh, barely squished it in there. That looks almost black. And since the Lamy nibs tend to write pretty wet in general, I have to be careful about what inks I put in here because some of them can bleed through paper and like the ink just runs out really fast. You can see that like that's almost empty in there, and since this ink is really wet and the nib is really broad, it can be a little bit messy and I tend to get it on my fingers, but I think that this ink looks really good in this pen and it kind of gives some shading to that Monteverde Malachite that's really pretty. But I will probably put that ink in finer nibs in the future. The next pen I'm going to show you is my Kaweco Student. I think this has a fine nib on it. Yeah, this has a fine nib on it. And I mentioned in my pen case tour, but this is a really special pen to me because it's the first fountain pen that I bought in person, and I got it on my first trip to Europe earlier this year. I got it at a store in Amsterdam, and it was just a really special experience, and this pen is so gorgeous. I have this inked with Monteverde Joy Sepia, and I just have a sample of this. Actually, I think it might be empty now, but I am obsessed with this color. It is just, in my opinion, like the perfect light brown. And oh man, I really need to get my hands on a bottle of this. It seems a little bit hard to track down, but that is my goal, is to get a bottle of this because I just think this is so gorgeous. So I have that in this Kaweco Student. Like I mentioned, this has a fine nib on it, though I think this pen really needs to have the nib adjusted because I've put a couple of inks in here so far and it always has hard starts and stops and dries out really quickly. And I always have to have a scratch piece of paper to scribble on with this. And if you're like writing and you pause for a few seconds, it clogs, or it dries, I mean, and you have to like scribble to get it to write again. So I think I need to adjust the nib on this and get it to write a little bit wetter, which is fine, but I need to scribble. But I did just have to scribble on a scratch piece of paper to get this to write. And I do it every time I pull out this pen because I know that it doesn't like to write. Oh, also, this is the Kaweco Student 20s Jazz. I got that backward there. With a fine nib. And so the students come in a few different colors, but this is the 20s Jazz. And this has Monteverde Joy Sepia. Oh, I love that color so much. It's so pretty. And I think that's a pretty combo too. the next pen I'm going to show you was like my first fountain pen, and that is the Kaweco Sport in Blush Pitaya, I believe is the color, and this also has a fine nib on it. Oh, I think I dropped this, so that's why the nib is all messy. I'm just terrible. I drop things all the time. So that's this pen, and I have it inked with Ferris Wheel Press Royal Rhubarb. I have a bottle of this. I don't know why I didn't get it out. I want to show you the bottle because I think Ferris Wheel Press, their packaging is really gorgeous. Like, look at this bottle. Are you serious? It's so pretty. It's not very practical for like filling pens from. It's kind of like wobbly, but I usually fill my pens with a syringe anyways, so it's okay. I don't stick my pen or anything in here, but I think that these bottles are so gorgeous. And I actually really love this combination. I think that this ink is so pretty and it just looks so good in this pink pen. It's writing really light right now. Let's see. Oh, I don't know what I just wrote there. I did 3 S's. Royal Rhubarb. I like forgot how to spell every single word I just wrote. So I bought this ink to use in my Hobonichi 5-year journal, and the idea that I have is that each year I will just use one ink, and so that when I write in the journal and I write on the right hand side of the page, if it's in that ink, I know that it's from this year. So next year I'll probably pick out a new ink that's a different color for the year. And I had originally put this ink in my extra fine Lamy, and it was always making a mess. And it was always like clogging up the nib and dumping out into the cap and just making an absolute mess in that pen. And I also tried it in the black Lamy and it did the same thing, always made a mess. And then I decided to try it in my Kaweco Sport, which has a fine nib. And it's been so well behaved. It's worked great. Kawecos tend to have a thinner nib than a Lamy. So a Kaweco fine nib is more fine than, I'd even say, the extra fine Lamy nib. You can see that here. So these are both Kaweco fines, and then this is an extra fine Lamy nib. So that might be why this ink behaves better in this pen, just because it has a finer nib. But yeah, I'm interested to try more Ferris wheel press inks. I will probably just get samples in the future of things before I buy full bottles, just as a general rule of thumb. And yeah, but I do really like this ink. I think it's really pretty. And then the last pen I have to show you is my Kaweco Sport in Iridescent Pearl. This has a medium nib on it, and I have it inked with Tatcha AO, just AO. And yeah, this is just a really pretty blue. I just have a sample of this ink, but I don't think I'm gonna repurchase it. This ink just doesn't feel like super incredible to me. I'm really picky about my blue inks though, but this does have like a really pretty red sheen to it that almost makes it look purple. I'm not sure if it picks up on camera. I haven't tried to show ink properties on camera before, so my apologies if it's not great, but it is a really pretty blue, and it does look pretty good in this Kaweco medium nib. And that's the last of it. So this isn't like the most aesthetically pleasing palette. Sometimes I try to make like a really nice looking palette of my inks, but this time I kind of just grabbed random inks that I felt like using and put them in all my pens. And I don't change my inks out like every month necessarily because I don't always use the ink in a month's time. So I would like to play around more with some ink samples though. So these are all of the inks that I have in my pens right now. So you can see the shimmer on that one. All right, and the shading on this one okay. But yeah, I think these are all really pretty, with the exception of probably this green and this blue. This does feel like a very autumnal palette. But yeah, I think that all of these inks are really pretty. These are some of my favorite inks that I have. So I hope that you enjoyed this video. Let me know if this is something that you'd like, and if you'd like to see me swatch my ink samples and things when I get them, let me know. That could be really fun. I do have this coloring book. That's what these swatch cards are from. This is a coloring ink testing book, and I think I just got this one from Jet Pens, but whenever I put a new ink in one of my pens, I just make a swatch for it. So I have like this nice little collection right here. Yeah, I really love that thing. It's very handy. But yeah, thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.